Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest as she surged forward, her dagger gleaming in the flickering light of the demon's lair. Asmodeus, the towering figure of pure malevolence, loomed before her, his glowing red eyes narrowed with contempt. The rest of Evelyn's team lay crumpled on the ground, their weapons scattered uselessly at their feet. Asmodeus had effortlessly brushed them aside, demonstrating the sheer power and raw fury that the demon possessed. But Evelyn could not, would not back down. The allure of the demon's hoard, the promise of untold riches and priceless artifacts, still burned within her. She had come too far to turn back now, and she refused to let her team's sacrifice be in vain. As Asmodeus's clawed hand reached towards her, Evelyn dodged to the side, the demon's razor-sharp talons grazing her arm. She hissed in pain, but the adrenaline coursing through her veins numbed the sensation. Pivoting on her heel, she lashed out with her dagger, aiming for the vulnerable spots she had observed during her reconnaissance. The blade struck true, sinking into the demon's flesh with a sickening crunch. Asmodeus roared in agony, his massive form recoiling, but the wound was not enough to slow the demon down, and Evelyn knew she needed to act quickly. "Nadia, Ezra," Evelyn shouted into her earpiece, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need you to guide me through the hoard. Find me the most valuable artifacts, the ones that will cripple Asmodeus the most." Nadia's voice crackled to life, her tone tense but focused. "Evelyn, you're crazy, but I'm on it. Ezra and I will do our best to direct you, but you need to move fast. That demon won't stay down for long." Evelyn didn't need the encouragement. She was already sprinting towards the towering dais, her eyes scanning the vast array of priceless relics and arcane treasures. Ezra's voice suddenly filled her earpiece, his words rushed and urgent. "Evelyn, listen closely. There, on the far end of the dais, that carved obsidian scepter. It's an ancient artifact of immense power, capable of draining a demon's strength. Grab it, quickly." Without hesitation, Evelyn darted forward, her fingers closing around the smooth, ebony surface of the scepter. As her skin made contact with the artifact, she felt a surge of power coursing through her veins, a tingling sensation that set her nerves on edge. Whirling around, Evelyn faced the demon, the scepter gripped tightly in her hand. Asmodeus had recovered from her initial attack and was advancing towards her, his claws extended and his eyes burning with unbridled fury. "Foolish girl," the demon roared, his voice shaking the very foundations of the lair. "You dare to touch the relics of my hoard? Now you shall face the full wrath of Asmodeus." The demon unleashed a torrent of dark energy, the air crackling with an oppressive, malevolent power. Evelyn braced herself, the scepter held out before her like a shield. As the demonic magic struck the artifact, a blinding flash of light erupted, and Evelyn felt the power coursing through her intensify. Asmodeus recoiled, his roars of pain echoing through the cavernous chamber. Evelyn watched in awe as the demon's movements slowed, his strength visibly draining away. The scepter was doing its work, siphoning the demon's power and weakening him with each passing moment. Seizing the opportunity, Evelyn darted towards the dais, her eyes scanning the hoard for other valuable targets. Nadia's voice guided her, directing her towards a crystalline orb that pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly light. "Evelyn, that's a shard of illusion. It can cloak the wielder in mystical disguises. Grab it, quickly." Evelyn snatched up the orb, feeling its power hum in her palm. As she tucked it safely away, her gaze landed on a gleaming, intricate dagger, its blade etched with arcane symbols. "The Dagger of Shadows," Ezra's voice crackled in her earpiece. "It can conceal its wielder in the darkest of shadows. Take it, Evelyn, and use it to your advantage." Evelyn's fingers closed around the dagger's hilt, and she could feel the power of the artifact coursing through her. With the scepter and the dagger in her possession, she knew she had a fighting chance against the demon. Whirling around, Evelyn saw that Asmodeus had regained some of his strength, his movements becoming more erratic, and his roars of fury echoing through the chamber. She knew she needed to act quickly before the demon recovered fully. Gripping the scepter and the dagger tightly, Evelyn darted forward, her movements a blur as she wove through the demon's attacks. Asmodeus swiped and slashed, his claws tearing through the air, but Evelyn was too nimble, too quick. Channeling the power of the Dagger of Shadows, Evelyn disappeared into the inky blackness, her form blending seamlessly with the shadows. Asmodeus roared in frustration, his glowing eyes scanning the chamber, searching for his elusive prey. Evelyn struck then, darting in and out of the demon's reach, the scepter and the dagger working in tandem to sap Asmodeus's strength and confuse his senses. The demon's movements grew sluggish, his roars of pain and anger echoing through the lair. Sensing an opportunity, Evelyn surged forward, the scepter raised high. With a swift, decisive strike, she brought the artifact down upon Asmodeus's head, the impact causing the demon to stagger and falter. "Now, Remy!" Evelyn shouted, her voice cutting through the din. A deafening explosion rocked the chamber as Remy's carefully placed explosive devices detonated, showering the demon with debris and shrapnel. Asmodeus howled in agony, his massive form reeling from the assault. Evelyn watched in triumph as the demon's movements grew more erratic, his strength visibly waning. The scepter and the dagger had done their work, weakening the powerful being and leaving him vulnerable to their coordinated attack. With Asmodeus distracted and disoriented, Evelyn and her team sprung into action, their trained fingers deftly snatching up the most valuable artifacts from the demon's hoard. Liam and Nadia worked in tandem, their movements fluid and synchronized as they carefully packed the precious relics into their backpacks. Ezra, his eyes alight with a mixture of awe and trepidation, shouted instructions and warnings, guiding the team through the arcane defenses that still lingered in the demon's lair. "Hurry, my friends. Asmodeus will not remain incapacitated for long. We must make our escape before he regains his strength." Evelyn spared a final glance at the towering demon, now crouched and struggling to rise, his glowing eyes filled with a murderous rage. She knew that their window of opportunity was closing, and that the true test of their daring heist was yet to come. With a nod to her team, Evelyn turned and led the way out of the lair, their precious cargo safely in hand. The confrontation with Asmodeus had been a harrowing experience, but they had emerged victorious, for now. As they fled the scene, Evelyn couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration and triumph. They had pulled off the impossible, stealing from a demon and living to tell the tale. But she knew that the demon's wrath would not be so easily sated, and that Asmodeus would stop at nothing to reclaim his lost treasures. The team made their way through the winding passages, their footsteps quickening as they sensed the demon's renewed pursuit. Evelyn could feel the weight of the artifacts in her backpack, the promise of their value burning within her. But even as she savored their triumph, a gnawing sense of unease crept into her mind. The demon's hoard had proved to be a far greater challenge than she had anticipated, and the true cost of their daring heist had yet to be revealed. As they emerged from the lair, Evelyn knew that their troubles were far from over. Asmodeus would not rest until he had reclaimed his stolen possessions, and the demon's wrath would be a force to be reckoned with. The team had succeeded in their initial mission, but the true battle had only just begun.